To get to the office, met some of the folks. While saying my hellos, my manager pulled me to the side and closed the door behind him. Oh, we are going to have to let 2 of your people go. What do you mean? I just joined. It's my first month as manager. I don't understand. Thankfully, my manager said he would deliver the unfortunate news to 2 of the unfortunate folks. I, however, had to deliver the news to the rest of my team. I had no part of the decision making, but maybe they thought I had something to do with it. I had absolutely nothing to do about it. It was an absolute shock to me. I even had to sit patiently with one of my friends in the office, sharing his concern about layoffs. And I had to quietly nod while just being a listening ear. At that point, I learned something sometimes you inherit situations you have absolutely no control over. Oh, my slides are not turning. Oh, it's just a little delayed. Sorry about that. Anyways, welcome to my talk, where I go over lessons I wish I knew before becoming a manager and hopefully give you things to think about before making the shift. I'm Kat Hughes, engineering manager over at Veracode for over 1.5 years. And 7 years in the IT industry. I'll be asking you questions for you to reflect with, as I mentioned earlier. Hopefully that keeps your brain going with a full stomach. Also, if possible, please help out your peers by writing notes in the conference note. All right. First and foremost, management isn't really a promotion. You can kind of see here that there's a common track right there of engineer and senior engineer. However, the IC track splits over to staff engineer. There might be distinguished engineer, principal engineer, all the way to CTO. There's another side, which is the manager track, which is where engineering manager happens, senior engineering manager, VP engineering, etc. It really depends on the type of company you're at. However, it wasn't really a promotion. You really use a different set of skills when you go into the manager track. And actually, it's pretty frequent that I see people go from engineering manager back to IC, back to engineering manager, back to IC. And sometimes when they get into engineering manager, they're like, why did I even bother doing this? And they get to IC and they're like, ooh, I kind of miss the people aspect of it. And I really like helping out. So then they hop over to the engineering manager side. Have you thought about where you want to be in a few years? And this could be like, anywhere. Maybe you're not even happy being in IT. Maybe you want to go over, maybe you want to do fashion. Maybe you want to, I don't know, hunt some bugs, submit some CVs. Who knows? But yeah, why don't you just give that a thought? All right. Support is now your role. As you can see here, for individual contributor, you do stuff like building features, closing stories, deploying features, etc. I don't have to read the thing for you. But as you can see over there in the management side, you're pretty much the supporting role of it. You're empowering ICs to build features, you're unblocking ICs to close stories, you're approving releases, ensuring quality of code, etc. But you're basically just enabling your people. Now, there's a long list of other responsibilities engineering managers do. However, I'm just keeping it to the IC and engineering manager part. But yeah, as you can see, Danny is actually a very good enabler. He supports a lot of y'all. He tries to make y'all talk to each other. He paid for pickleball. He paid for yesterday. He is a really good example of being supportive. Another way of kind of looking at it for any of you gamers out there, individual contributor is more like ADC duelists, the ones that do the damage. However, engineering manager is more like support sentinel, the one who protects and supports the IC so they can focus on just doing damage. So one thing that I want you to think about is, are you okay with even taking on a supportive role? Is that something that you can even do? When is the last time you actually, helped out just because? One example, and I didn't really plan this at all. I noticed we were a little bit low with volunteers yesterday over at the truck yard. So I just offered to help. After all, doesn't hurt to do it. I got free food. I got a golden ticket for a free drink. I got to tell people that for a quest, they got to go over to Danny. And it was the funniest thing hearing him say, oh yeah, people were coming to me saying there was a quest for me to find him. I didn't tell Danny about that at all. I made that on the fly. But yeah. Another one. Management is not lonely. you are making yourself lonely. Now, I know this is a little bit weird one because sometimes you hear like lessons learned from moving from IC to management, and a lot of people are like, management is lonely. What are you talking about? Well, I'm going to change your mind. So basically, when you turn into management, you're not really part of the team, but you're also kind of part of the team. It's a really weird dynamic. I mean, you're pretty much paying, you're making sure, they have their salary. You can see their salary. You're also the one in charge of making sure that they get raises, promotions, etc. A lot of people don't really like the fact that you have that information. It's a little bit nerve wracking. And so you have your direct reports sometimes either sucking up to you or being really nice to you. And it's a little bit hard to distinguish, are they genuinely being nice to you or are they just sucking up to you? Yeah. But anyways, because of that, it kind of put me into a situation where I actually had to broaden my horizons and pretty much go to other engineering managers. So for example, I'm really good friends with the engineering manager over at SRE, as well as QA. I never reached out to them beforehand, but in doing so, kind of realized something. I was stopping myself from actually reaching out to them. I could have reached out to them at any point at my career. But for some reason, because I wasn't part of the team, it forced me into that scenario. So, have you reached out to other EMs, TPMs, VP directors, or C-suites in the past? And try making this one of your goals this time. Why don't you try reaching out? Just saying hello. I mean, after all, what's the worst I can say? Sorry, I'm busy. I mean, you got those prompt cards, right? Figure out who they are, bring it to them, and kind of have to go with it, right?
Yes.
Use Danny as an excuse, right? Blame him. Another one is psychological safety is very, very, very important. Psychological safety, by definition, encourages people within a group to offer opinions, suggest ideas, ask questions, raise concerns, and admit mistakes without fearing negative consequences. This is willingness to help. Employees believe asking for help is appropriate, and their colleagues are willing to provide it. Inclusion and diversity. Employees feel a sense of belonging and that their diverse experiences and expertise matter. Attitude to risk and failure. Employees view mistakes and failure as an acceptable way in favor of learning. And then open conversation. Employees perceive conversation as open, candid, and safe to contribute to. Think about the team you're currently on. Are you actually able to do that? Are you able to ask for help and know people are willing to provide it? Do you feel like your specific expertise matters? How do you feel when you make a mistake or cause a production incident? I mean, we've all done that, right? Are you able to have open conversations, or do you need to watch what you say? Are you walking on eggshells? This is very important because I see some employees in different categories. Either number one, they're happy with how things are. Number two, they're unhappy with how things are and are not complaining about it. And number three, they're unhappy with things and are complaining about it. Think to yourself, which one would you rather have? Three? The one that I like doing is I like having people who are unhappy with having things and are able to complain about it. I absolutely love it when people are just, speaking very loudly. They speak very loudly because they care. I don't want them to feel like they have to hide their feelings at all. Besides, resentment builds up that way. So yeah, do you believe your team has psychological safety? All right, this one, learn how to balance technical people and business. Now, this was a really cool one because when I was looking at this, I'm not really in a position to where I can speak much about this. However, I did actually watch a whole bunch of videos, and one of the people that I actually watched was Dev Leader, who's actually in the audience. So let's give him a round of applause, shall we? Anyway, some of the things that he was mentioning was some managers mainly focus on the business and provide only short-term gains, burning people out. However, challenging how much output you can have versus focusing on empowering the people and indirectly increasing their output really makes it difficult. How I feel like it is, if you make your employees happy, your employees are more likely to actually do the work. Now I know there's like some CEOs who will be like, "Oh, I want as much possible. I need as much output as possible," because they're only going to be there for a while. Um, and I know, like, typically when you put on resumes, "Oh yeah, I've improved X by blah 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 in X amount of years." So it actually kind of incentivizes people to actually kind of crunch out as much numbers, especially if they're going to hop from job to job. But yeah, another thing that we need to be worried about is with the technical part. I don't really get to code as much, and I absolutely miss it. Unfortunately, because I'm so focused on people, just because depends from team to team. In my case, my team really needed help on the people part, and I can't really lead business. So maybe I'm like 75 people, the rest of it minus 5%. I can't do math on the fly. Sorry. Business, and the rest technical. Obviously, I do have to keep up with technical. However, I don't get to code that much, and it really sucks because I'm focusing on people so much. I'm in meetings all day. I I have to listen to people talk and talk, make sure I have meeting notes, make sure I'm the person that's soaking in the information so the rest of my team can have that. I'm the person that has to reach out to other teams cross functionally and make sure we're aligned on that front. Because you are the one responsible of doing that. You can't really shove that onto someone else. But yeah, are you aware of how you spend your time? Do you know how much percent you're actually in meetings? Do you know how much percent are you in coding? This is even important, as an IC. Maybe there are meetings that could have been an email. And my favorite way to think about it is how much money are you burning on those meetings that have like the whole company there? Next one, be prepared to be a therapist. Now, I know this sounds really weird. I know you probably don't have the qualifications to be a therapist. However, you're kind of put into that scenario. One of these days, I remember someone reached out to me and told me that one of the other direct reports had called them out during retro about, hey, this person mentioned I ruined production and that I could have done a better job or something along the lines. I'm probably butchering the words, but in a way, it was not delivered in a way that it made this person reach out to me. So I just had to kind of listen, but also at the same time, I had to get his point of view, reach out to the other person, get their point of view, because just because one person has a point of view, it could be an absolute separate way on the other side. So I reached out to the other person. And I asked, like, hey, what's up with that? But obviously, no, not obviously. Well, since my team has psychological safety, they feel very open to actually telling me the problems in the team. This person was just trying to say, like, hey, if you reached out, we could have helped you prevent, an incident. We could have been there for you, make sure that you were supported there. And I had to tell them, you did not absolutely deliver that at all. The intent was very nice. The way how they delivered it, not nice at all. So I just kind of had to be there. However, while that's an actionable thing, sometimes employees will go to you and just vent. And sometimes you just have to let them vent. And it could be, I don't know, the silliest thing. Oh, my wife did blah, blah, blah. I had to go over to Pizza Hut to actually work today because blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. However, one of the things that you can do as a manager is remember those small little details because the next time you have a meeting with them, ask them, like, hey, is your wife still bothering you? And it actually makes that trust, stronger right there. And it could be, you could be sitting there just enjoying the tea, or you could be there, just listening, maybe doing stuff on the side. I have an engineering manager friend who literally just lets their team vent, and she's actually doing work on the side because you literally don't have any other time to. But the point is, sometimes you're kind of put into situations where you have to do something without giving a solution. Now, I know as people in tech, we probably struggle with this. Are you able to listen to someone vent without giving a solution? Now, I used to have that problem. I've thankfully worked on that because I had to, but it's really difficult, especially if you love giving solutions. I mean, that's kind of how our brain is wired to always like fix the uncomfortableness, right? Face yourself or be prepared to deal with burnout. And what I mean by that is, as an engineering manager, you are thrown a million things at you. Like, oh, depending on the team, maybe you don't have as much monitors. Okay, I need to make sure I have monitoring in place. Do we have observability? No, we don't have observability. Okay, but then someone reached out to me and said that their coworker is being mean. But then at the same time, we have to make sure that the project is being delivered. But at the project being, anyways, the point is, there's like a million things happening at the same time. You have to make sure you pace yourself because you will burn yourself out. I burnt myself the hell out. I had to actually, talk to my manager and I said, hey, I'm burnt out. I need a week to relax. So I spent an entire week playing RuneScape. It was absolutely great. But the point is, I had to go back to there and make sure I didn't burn myself out again. I had to make sure I paced myself. And it's okay taking time, right? You have to just learn how to prioritize what's the most important and then kind of go downhill from there. But if you don't know how to prioritize, you're going to try to tackle everything at once or get nothing done because you're going to be like here and then 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 here and get nothing done. So try to learn how to pace yourself. Can you tell when you're heading to or currently in burnout? Because that is a very good skill to have. But also, not only that, you have to figure out when your employees are heading to burnout. And that is so important because there are some people who think, I need to make sure I get everything done so that I get a raise. But sometimes they do that and you have to kind of remind them, like, it's okay to take your time. We can adjust your workload. And sometimes stuff happens outside of life that may impact them. And that's perfectly okay. We're all humans. Life happens. I don't know. Maybe you got into a car accident and have to do that. But the point is, when everything's happening at the same time, it's really difficult. I have an employee who pretty much every time I have a one-on-one with him, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm trying to get a divorce with my wife. There's mold in the garage. The neighbor's trying to sue me for it. I'm just like, are you okay? Do you need time off? Like, we have a whole bunch of benefits. Please use it. But the point is, he was trying to deal with all of that, get an attorney, while also making sure he was doing the same amount of story points as the rest of the team. Difficult conversations never get easier. And this one is a really hard one to learn. A lot of times I have seen on YouTube where people will say, oh, I have to deliver the news that I'm laying them off or we're letting them go, we're going into a PIP. It never gets easier because people are kind of random. Everyone reacts differently and you can't really control that. You can try to control it as much as possible, but it's really out of your control. What are some difficult conversations you had and how did you react in those? Because sometimes when you give difficult conversations, it's really hard because you have to make yourself look like you're put together. I am the type of person who feels other people's emotions very hard at the same time. So when I'm telling someone and they end up crying, I am doing my absolute best to make sure I'm not crying too. It's really difficult. You were stuck in meetings for a significant amount of time. Yeah, the first time I became an engineering manager, my calendar was filled to the brim. I was accepting every meeting. I was saying yes to everything. But then I got absolutely no work done. I was literally like, I don't know how I'm supposed to get work done, but I need to make sure I'm there. I had to learn how to say no to some meetings. I had to learn how to say, like, I will eventually get to it so that I could actually have core time to where I can actually do the stuff that I'm working on. How are your meeting filled days? Do you feel burnt out? Because when I have a full meeting day, I need to lay down. I need to relax. I need to de-stress. I will absolutely love staying in those meetings. I will absolutely listen to all of my direct reports. I will literally be there for my friends anytime. My friends are literally in the crowd. They will literally say I will listen to them no matter what the hell is going on in my life. I went through a difficult period of time in my life and I'm just like, hey, are you okay? But the point is, you need to just be okay with, practicing yes and no, making sure, you're working on the right things. Thanks for listening. I'll take your questions outside. I guess I can take it for 5 minutes. This is my LinkedIn. That is my Discord. I don't have a Twitter, unfortunately. Really bad with social media. I will scroll forever. Um, Another note, I know my LinkedIn actually says Bronwyn Hughes Dev. My real name is actually Bronwyn. Little secret, even though I go by Kat. So if you see Bronwyn there, that's because why. Anyways, thank you. Awesome. Yes,
Right? On-site or
I am remote. That's a very good question. My company is based in Boston. Half of my team is remote. Half of my team is working in office, even though I don't tell them to work in office because we're all on a Zoom call and it doesn't really make any sense. Do you have a follow-up question?
if you work at your team remote and do your home and each other and help you a lot with burnout and
Yes, it does really help me with burnout because I could literally be in one meeting and then like literally immediately be like screaming into a pillow the next, or like, oh, this is an emotionally charged, meeting. I can just turn off my camera, just cry quietly to the side while I'm like munching on some chips or something, and it's fine. So yes, I feel like it was a lot easier as remote. However, it does come with some challenges because you don't really get to see what your direct reports are doing. Not that I don't have any like need to micromanage them or whatever, but it's like the little small nuances that, are really important. Kind of like, how does person A react with person B? Are they being like really rude to this person? I can't really see that. So you kind of have to dig deeper to make sure that you're paying attention to that. Yes.
talking masters called company do direct one of it
Yes.
MEA math school telling it
Oh,
very much the
yeah.
the case to sample what ventures
Uh-huh.
they see want the kind of thing they would do for side by or engineer want to go to math
Uh-huh.
really have a hard time letting go
Uh-huh.
being in the week like I said you
Uh-huh.
way more than manager
Yeah.
things so what you get to the that have that correspondence but
Well, I feel like I'm qualified to answer that because I was one of those individuals who had a really hard time letting go. Um, Quick second, 2 minutes? Okay. So basically, what I had to do was I kind of had to make sure that I wasn't ruining my team's velocity because at the same time, if you're also additionally working, it can actually mask the fact that you're understaffed. And that's a really difficult thing to do, as well as since I'm like, in a whole bunch of meetings or whatnot. I also didn't want to code after hours because then now I'm kind of, conveying you should also work after hours. So it's kind of like what you're doing also kind of what you do is really important because your direct reports will look up to you. One of the things that I did was I just kind of tried to do some fun projects on the side. I actually think Dev Leader actually mentioned this, but coding will now be just your hobby. It's not your work. And I feel like that reignites the passion of it. So you can take it in that way. Does that answer your question? All right. How many minutes do we have? One. Who wants to ask a really quick question? Yeah.
have you ever had to sacrifice some money
Oh, that's a good question. Unfortunately, I didn't really have to. Beginning of the talk, I just mentioned I had to let go of 2 people. However, that wasn't my decision. My manager took over that, so I didn't have to be the one to, deliver that news. Um, Thankfully, I am not in that position where I had to. There was a very close period where I did because I had to give a PIP to someone where it could have actually led to a termination. However, I actually worked with him. We got on the same footing and we actually, got past the PIP. And so now he's working as normal. Us? Are we done? All right. Thank you.